Okay, so I'm going to be making a response video, which was suggested by one of our amazing viewers, Ian Kinzel, to Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast with Jesse Weber's recent video that is the 5 most damning pieces of evidence against Bryan Kohberger. Now, I will say they did not list 5, they listed 4. With kind of a 5th that is unknown evidence. The 5th is more like, could there be bombshells released in trial from like search warrants and stuff like that? And
that
it's
was
like
number 5,
basically, but they didn't call it number 5. Not really.
So they
it was 4. It was 4. It was like I am just saying the 5th is unknown because I was like, wait, where's number 5? And at the end of the show, they were talking about like unknown bombshells to come. And this was basically a conversation between Bryan Inton and Jesse Weber about the evidence. He said Bryan Inton is got to know the evidence better than anybody because he's been covering it since the beginning. Yeah, he's been reporting on it. Has he been digging into each thing other than just looking at the court documents and taking it all at face value? I don't know that he has. But I will say that he said a few interesting things. So, number 1, the DNA, which we've dug a ton into the DNA. Law and Crime also did a really interesting interview with Andrea Burkhart recently, and I was cheering her on the whole time. I love Andrea Burkhart, and she hit all the important notes that I feel like you need to hit. The fact that it doesn't explain how it got there. The fact that it's such a tiny, minute amount. The fact that we just don't know enough. It's trace DNA.
Yeah, and people need to know the difference. And I feel
not
like
blood.
Anybody that is dead set on the DNA just doesn't understand the difference. There are a lot of really, really, really smart people out there, and I don't want to put anyone down. I just want to use myself as an example that before this case and before we started covering true crime, if you would have came to me and said, hey, his DNA is on the scene, I would have right away been like, it's a done deal. He did it. Yeah. The only reason I have changed my mind, the only reason is because of this case and because of the evidence and the research we've done into it.
And I really think it's important to highlight the TED Talk that I just recently talked about on last episode of a DNA expert coming out saying the way they match DNA profiles is pretty subjective, not objective. Meaning there's a lot of room for error. There's a lot of room for bias. It is not blind testing where they don't know anything about the case or the suspect. They have influence from investigators on, deciding if it's a match or not.
Yeah.
Which I think is a problem.
Yeah.
But they bring up the fact that they think the defense could potentially use the defense that it's a party house. And of course, Bryan was there at one point. He partied there this one time, and the defense could take that angle. I don't think that's going to happen, but I guess it could be a possibility.
I don't think they're going to take that angle. I think they're going to take the angle that
he doesn't know them at all.
No, that it's a party house. So why is there only one DNA profile?
Right. Why didn't these other 3?
Wait, are your cops incompetent? Did they only find DNA at this one spot when it's a party house? And I can show you tons of videos with hundreds of people there.
And there's 3 others that you guys have failed to identify.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, with this tiny, minute amount of Bryan Kohberger's DNA, matched a profile, but you can't do that for the other 3?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
They keep leaning on this idea that, well, it's because of the placement and where it was.
Because it was
the
on the knife
snap.
sheath.
But the thing is, was the snap open? Because if it was open, that was enough DNA that it could literally float through the air and land on something. So,
well, I don't even know if it is a match. Like, I am at the point of doing enough research that I think there could be enough subjectivity here that it could not even be his DNA at all.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
I think it's a possibility. It could be within the same.
I think anything's a possibility.
I think
but
it could be
that
within
would
the same
be-
ancestry, but maybe not his. I don't know.
Yeah, but he
I
doesn't have
know.
any other family in that area. So
Well,
that's just a straight up lie then. And I don't see them just straight up lying. It's his DNA.
do you think there's a possibility it could be planted evidence?
I don't know. I have no clue.
I don't know. With what I was looking into with the subjectivity of reading a DNA sample, I don't know. I just don't know. I think that to know for sure, we have to see it in court. We have to see the defense's experts and the state's experts go head to head on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, number 2, cell phone pings. So, Bryan Itten said this. BK pinged near the crime scene multiple times around the time of the murders. Went away, came back, left a knife. Did he come back because there was a knife sheath there? And I felt like that was kind of disingenuous. He did not ping around the murder scene at the time of the murders at all, which Jesse Weber goes on to clear up and says the actual timeline that we know of, that it turned off in Pullman at like 3 a.m. and then turned back on at 5:30 a.m. With 12 pings around supposedly the crime scene before the murders over like the preceding months.
Yeah.
We have also dug a lot into the cell phone tower pings, and I have another topic coming up after this talking about basically Bryan Kohberger's journey after the crime and some claims made by Court TV about that, because they really were the go-getters who mapped that out for the public and like determined some of these things that we now know or think we know. So I'll dig more into that later after this. But the thing is with the cell phone pings, I feel like we've determined that there's enough, unless they have geolocation data, that there's enough room for error with the cell phone pings. They can't triangulate him to a specific point. So I think he could be anywhere in the strip of Moscow, by the college, eating at a restaurant, and they could claim he was near the home.
Yeah.
Because it's such a generalized area.
Yeah.
So I think that they say the biggest deal is the fact that his phone was off during the time of the murders. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that it brings up big question marks.
It does. It does. But over the course of those 2 days, you realize his phone went off or wasn't attached to a cell phone tower, was in airplane mode, something like that, like 2 more times over the course of those 2 days. Where it was off for hours and they didn't know where he was, unless they have some kind of surveillance footage.
Interesting.
2 more times when he was out driving around. That makes me question, is the service so bad in Moscow and the surrounding areas that sometimes your phone doesn't have service?
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean anything. He was out driving that night. We have no idea where he was during that time. Maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Possible.
It's possible. So number 3, which I will say one more thing. They made a good point that if witnesses can come out during the defense of Kohberger saying that is a normal behavior for him, that could add a lot of weight to the alibi. But number 3 is the car. Bryan Itten mentions that it's important because it was seen around the home by surveillance around the time of the murders. Surveillance footage.
Yep.
Do you think it's weird that when they announced that they were looking for the white Elantra, that they didn't show any pictures of it, like even a single picture, like from any camera, CCTV. Is that odd?
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
They didn't
I
even
don't
show
know.
a stock photo. Do you think that's because it was a range?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I feel like it's odd. But it is supposedly seen passing the home 4 times between 3:30 a.m. and 4:04 a.m. and then speeding away 16 minutes after, like at like 4:20 a.m. it speeds away. And then the Washington State officer said he found it in the Steptoe apartments where Bryan Kohberger lived, and it was matched to him. Blah blah blah. We know the rest. Now, after the murders, they brought this up, which is what I'm going to go more into later. That he was spotted that day later after the murders at an Albertsons in
Mhm.
Lewiston and Clarkston, that area. And that there was footage from inside the grocery store, him shopping and checking out. And they really were like, what was he buying? I'm really curious what he's buying.
I mean, Albertsons, just food?
Does Albertsons carry any like home equipment? Like, would they have shovels or rope or,
I mean, maybe, but Albertsons is a grocery store.
like what if he was
It's a
checking out?
California grocery store.
Yeah, it is. You're right. So what could it be, just cleaning agents? Like that would be pretty trippy if he was checking out it with just cleaning agents. Then I would be like, whoa, that's weird.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know why that's such a big deal to Albertsons.
But the cleaning agents, they didn't find anything in the
No,
car.
they
So,
didn't.
I mean, even if it was cleaning agents, what to clean what?
I'm curious if they can detect hydrogen peroxide after the fact. Like, could they test for that? Because hydrogen peroxide is one of the best things for blood.
Yeah, they can test for that.
They can.
For sure. Guaranteed. And I think hydrogen peroxide, when left on stuff, bleaches it.
Yeah. Well, no. Because you can use it on clothes. It doesn't bleach
You
clothes.
put peroxide in someone's hair and it lightens it. It pulls color out.
Yeah, but don't you have to sit in the sun? Doesn't it just accelerate sun washing? Yeah, I don't remember either. But anyway, moving on from the car is number 4, which is the surviving witness, Dylan. And we all know that story. They both were talking about how it was super unfair, all the criticism she's gotten, and questioning, did she know this guy that she saw was the killer, or did she think it was just like some creepy looking guy and she was drunk or half asleep and passed back out? Which Bryan Hinton said he believes is the more likely scenario, which is the scenario I've been running that I think it is too, is that she was drunk and misinterpreted things. But Bryan Hinton, he's asked, basically they're talking about, is she going to testify? Will the state say, we're not calling her to testify because she is going through it? She's got survivor's guilt. We don't want to do that to her. The defense is going to really question her hard. She is, a victim. Should we not call her to testify? And Bryan Hinton's like, he's like, no, I think they're going to call her to testify.
Yeah.
Okay, she's got survivor's guilt and she's going through it, obviously, but no one has like said from the people he's talked to that she can't speak because she's like, so, you know what I mean? Having so many issues and difficulties that she can't talk.
Yeah, court doesn't care about that.
No, they shouldn't.
No.
If you're a witness to a crime, I feel like it's your duty to speak.
That's
on what you saw.
Those are problems for your therapist.
Exactly. But he said he felt like that was all being overplayed. Like the fact that she's going through it so much Like people, because at first they're saying that it's gross that people are harshly criticizing her. And then I feel like Anton's like, but at the same time, it's being overplayed that she's going through it. You know what I mean? Like there's these people who are over sympathizing and these people who are being too harsh.
Yeah.
And I feel very similarly.
Yeah.
And it's all because it's led by feelings. And we should try to take that out of it. As hard as that can be when we're looking for the truth, we should really take feeling out of that. Which is, I mean, I don't have a bad thing to say about Dylan. I think that if you're being reasonable and looking into the case, you should just have questions there. Like, what is going on with that situation?
Yeah.
But that is their four hardest hitting evidence that we know this far, the most damning pieces of evidence. And honestly, I feel like the one that is the most damning is the DNA, which is why the defense is going at it so hard.
Yeah.
And with the IgG, if it's proven to be like, if there's an issue there, okay, if they find an issue within the investigation of it, okay, within them obtaining a match, it's fruit of the poisonous tree after that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons that the DNA is the focus. It's another big deal that they're not showing their work. I mean, it's basic law that if there's evidence against you, okay, you have to show why. You have to. You're not allowed to just say, basically the way they're presenting the DNA is saying, hey, this is my opinion and I'm not going to show you why, but you need to take it as scientific fact just because I say so.
Right. That is what they're doing. And that's not okay. And it's honestly been the same. I'm just really curious. The defense hasn't really asked for more information on the car, which I find curious. Does that mean that the footage is that good that there is no more to ask for?
I don't know. We're not in the trial, so I don't know.
Because that's one question mark I have. If they said, oh, we connected all these dots and no, he was here at this time and here at this time, but I'm not seeing the proof of it. And I'm like, that doesn't really look like Bryan's car. That's not Bryan. I would be asking for more.
Yeah.
So it almost makes me wonder, is it actually that good? And we just have no idea because there's a gag order.
I mean, you wouldn't lean on the car to get the case thrown out. Even if it's a awful picture, it's not going to do anything. So there's just no point to focus on that when the DNA is the one that is the biggest piece.
I feel like it is the singular biggest piece of this case that could get him convicted or exonerated.
Yeah.
For sure. And there's just a lot of holes there.
Yeah.
I'm really curious if the defense is going to claim it was planted or not. Or at least throw out that doubt that it could have been.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what happened with those.
I don't think that's a good angle.
You don't?
No.
But what about Ann Taylor requesting the training records?
Yeah, for incompetence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think she's just going to pose that doubt out there that these cops are extremely incompetent?
Yeah.
They have, like, I wonder if she's just
stacking
up all these holes in the case and going to present
planted.
All of the holes where they missed things and be like, look at how awful of a job they did investigating this crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be pretty wild.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think the trial is going to happen 2024. I really hope that it does so we can have some answers and the families can have answers and, you know, move on with their lives. But I want to know what you think the most damning piece of evidence is against Bryan Kohberger, or if there even is one. Leave it in the comments.